Now, here's the biggest poser of them all, Rich Carter. Hi there. Welcome to Who's the Poser, a game show where we decide who's for real, who's full of shit, and who's a poser. And now let's meet. Are you nervous? You think you're the posers out there? Let's meet our posers. Number one, please tell us your name.
My name is Diane Bergland.
Contestant number two, what is your name, please?
My name is Diane Bergland.
And contestant number three, tell us your name.
My name is Diane.
Now clearly, they can't all be Diane Bergland because, thank God there's one, but heaven forbid there's three. Ladies, have a seat, and we're going to find out who's the poser. Now, you know how the game works. First, I'll read a signed affidavit by the real Diane Bergland. Then we'll find out who's the poser. I, Diane Bergland, was born Diane Marie Tabb in a small little town somewhere in Appalachia, which, for you history buffs, was one of the original 13 colonies. The year of my birth was 1978, more or less. My daddy, Jim, had a very diverse background, just like me. He was an airline pilot, a grand champion barbecue man, a moonshiner, and was the man they based the character Jed Clampett on. My mama, Joni, is short, a short, gorgeous little blonde thing, a red-hot little firecracker. In fact, she's just like me. I also have a much older sister, Leanne, who was born tragically tall. And if you think I have big-ass hair, you should get a load of her. In fact, she uses so much hairspray, she has her own personal hole in the ozone. I love my sister, but even though she was much, much older, I often had to kick her ass just to keep her in line. When I was a little girl, my family entered the witness protection program and moved to New Jersey. It was there that I honed my skills as Miss Hospitality. You see, my parents traveled a lot, and I found that if I would get one of my boyfriends, who were often much older, to buy some Jim Beam, open all the windows in the house and blast my Doors album, and wear really, really, really short cutoffs, all kinds of people would come over to my house and have a really good time. I refined those hospitality skills later in life, which came in handy when I went to the University of Florida. Go Gators! I had so many boyfriends there that they like to say I was the one who put the hoe in hospitality. Hey, I didn't write this, I'm just reading it, you know? I happen to take a particular liking to sports. I was a great admirer of quarterbacks, wide receivers, and point guards, who all took great pleasure in teaching me their particular positions. But in fact, I so liked athletics that for a while I studied sports medicine in hopes that someday I'd be able to repair some of the damage I had personally inflicted on so many young men. I'm sorry, but sometimes I just had to kick their ass just to keep them in line. But life took another direction, another turn, when I decided to become a flight attendant. I flew for Delta Airlines, and yes, I am a platinum member of that club. In fact, it was on Delta where I met my first husband. I'll get to him. We lived happily in Atlanta, Georgia, and started a family. Speaking of family, it turns out my husband turned out to be a genuine son. And then, yeah. Anyway, I guess she had to kick his ass too to get him out of the house. Anyway, we had two beautiful little boys, Taylor and Vaughn, and we moved to California, where I was fortunate enough to become involved with the Kenter Canyon Charter Elementary School. I knew when I came to my first PFG meeting and saw a half a box of saltines and a can of Cheese Whiz, and it wasn't even the good kind with imitation pimento, that destiny was calling. So I pulled out my Junior League of Atlanta Southern Belle cookbook and got to work. I perfected my hot artichoke dip, and come the very next PSG meeting, I fired up a can of Sterno and wowed them like never before with my culinary skills. I'd found my destiny. I had become Miss Hospitality, Kenter Canyon Charter Elementary School. Years later, I found out I didn't pay shit, but that's another story. I loved all the events, from cooking burgers to catering the teacher lunches. But I have to say, some of these teachers can really eat. I've seen some of them take not just seconds, but thirds, and sometimes fourths. Geez, you'd think they didn't make enough money or something. They either all have tapeworms or could really use a big raise. Up for the raise. Wrote it, not me. Anyway, back to my boys. I do just love them to death, even though being a single parent isn't always easy. We have a good time. Sometimes I do have to kick their asses just to keep them in line. And those are the good times I'm talking about. Recently, I've had to cut back on my activities here at Kenter as I have become a food stylist for TV commercials and film, as well as a major television celebrity. As I work with my sister Leanne on various projects for the new Food Network, Travel Channel, etc. Although I taught her everything she knows, she still needs me to keep her out of trouble. Only recently, I saved her life when the famous chef Michelle Richard hurled an entire lobster at her head on national TV. Of course, it would not have happened had she just listened to me in the first place. So I had to kick her ass again, just to keep her in line. Among my many hobbies and skills are cooking, water skiing, football players, surfing, kicking people's ass just to keep them in line, basketball players, making Bloody Marys, watching my boys play sports, hanging out with my dear friends from Kenter Canyon Charter Elementary School, doing all kinds of shots of various liquors. Thank you. Signed, Diane Marie Bergland. Okay, now.